Maggie the cat is alive. I'm alive. Why are you afraid of the truth? Elizabeth Taylor made one terrible mistake in 1964. She trusted a journalist with her darkest secrets. For months, they met in hotel rooms and on ships. She'd pour whiskey, light cigarettes, and confess everything. She thought he was just helping write her memoir. She didn't know he was secretly recording every word. 50 years later, those tapes surfaced. The woman everyone thought they knew had been living a double life. She even had a name for it: cellophane Elizabeth. The real story was much darker. Elizabeth Taylor was born on February 27, 1932, in London. From the start, her life seemed like a movie. Her parents were wealthy American art dealers. They lived in the fancy Hampstead Garden suburb and ran an art gallery on Bond Street. They knew famous artists and politicians, including Colonel Victor Cassatt, who became her unofficial godfather. But life wasn't all glamour. By 1939, with war coming, U.S. Ambassador Joseph P. Kennedy told her father to get the family out. In April that year, Elizabeth, her mother, and her brother escaped on the SS Manhattan. Her father stayed behind to close the gallery and joined them later. They settled in Pasadena, then Beverly Hills. Soon they were part of Hollywood's social scene. Elizabeth was just 7 when this dramatic move changed her world forever. Even as a toddler, Elizabeth was in the spotlight. At age 3, she started dance lessons. She wasn't just good, she was remarkable. She even danced for Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. Few children could imagine such an audience. Her parents' connections made it possible. Her mother had been an actress, and their circle included British high society. By the time they moved to Los Angeles, people already knew of Elizabeth's talent. A friend suggested a Hollywood screen test, and no one objected. She had performed for princesses before she had even reached Hollywood. It was as if fame had always been waiting for her. At age 10, Elizabeth got her first movie role in There's One Born Every Minute in 1942. Universal Pictures signed her for 7 years. But after just one film, they dropped her. They thought she looked too mature and wouldn't appeal to audiences. That decision turned out to be a huge mistake. Elizabeth's star power was clear to everyone else. MGM quickly picked her up. Universal missed the chance to shape one of the biggest stars in history. Elizabeth went on to win 2 Oscars and captivate fans for over 60 years. Universal's loss became MGM's gain. MGM signed Elizabeth in 1943, and it changed Hollywood. When she was 12, she starred in National Velvet in 1944. She played a girl who disguised herself as a boy to ride in the Grand National. The film was a hit. Elizabeth almost won a special juvenile Oscar, finishing just behind Peggy Ann Garner. But the role came at a price. To play Velvet Brown, she had to follow a strict routine to grow taller. She also fell off her horse during filming, injuring her back badly. That injury stayed with her for life. Still, the producers gave her the horse as a gift. The movie made her a star. MGM gave her a new contract at $750 a week, a huge amount for a child in the 1940s. She was on her way to becoming a legend. When Elizabeth was 18, MGM arranged her first marriage. It was to Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr., the hotel heir. The studio wanted to keep her image clean and marketable. They even bought her wedding dress. But behind the scenes, the marriage was a disaster. Hilton drank heavily and was abusive. He once kicked Elizabeth so hard that she lost their baby. The marriage lasted only 8 months. She divorced him in January 1951 because of mental cruelty. This marriage shattered her innocence and showed how studios controlled their stars for profit. Leaving Hilton didn't bring peace. MGM was furious about the divorce. They wanted to protect their image, so they punished Elizabeth. They forced her into a cheap romantic comedy, Love is Better Than Ever. In 1952, it was beneath her talent. The film didn't help her career. The message was clear: defy the studio and you'll pay. This was how studios treated their biggest stars, especially women. Image mattered more than safety or happiness. But in 1952, Ivanhoe changed things. Elizabeth didn't like her small role in the film, but it became a huge hit. In 39 days, it earned $1.3 million. In total, it made $5.8 million in the US and Canada and $5 million overseas. That added up to $11 million worldwide. It was MGM's top earner that year and a hit in England, too. The film earned 3 Oscar nominations and 2 Golden Globe nods. Elizabeth's star power was now undeniable. Even when she disliked a role, audiences still flocked to see her. That same year, Elizabeth's personal life was changing again. She married British actor Michael Wilding and was expecting her first child, but money was tight. To stay secure, she signed a new 7-year contract with MGM. They paid her $4,700 a week, which would be over $55,000 a week today. The deal included a loan for a house and work for Wilding, but it also gave the studio even more control over her. Elizabeth wanted better roles, but she had to take what MGM gave her. She was trapped. The contract brought money and stability, but also deeper ties to a system that cared more about profit than the people it owned. Elizabeth Taylor's life in the late 1950s and early 1960s was like a storm no one saw coming. On May 12, 1956, she hosted a glamorous dinner at her home in Benedict Canyon. It was meant to be a lovely night, but everything changed in an instant. Her friend Montgomery Clift left early, just a few hundred yards from her driveway. He crashed his car into a telephone pole. The crash was brutal. His face was shattered, his nose broke, his jaw fractured, several teeth were knocked out. The news reached Taylor fast. Without a second thought, she ran barefoot to the wreck. She got there before the ambulance. Cliff was choking on his own teeth. Blood was pouring from his mouth. Taylor didn't hesitate. She reached into his throat and pulled out shards of teeth and bone. She saved his life that night, but Cliff's face was never the same. The accident left him disfigured forever. Still, her bravery that night became one of the most powerful stories of friendship Hollywood had ever seen. But saving his life wasn't the end of her devotion. After the accident, Cliff's career fell apart. His looks were gone. Studios called him uninsurable. His growing addiction to painkillers and alcohol made things worse. When MGM refused to cast him, and suddenly, last summer, in 1959, Taylor stepped in. She gave them an ultimatum. Either they cast Cliff or she would walk. They panicked. Cliff was a risk. So Taylor did something no one expected. She offered her own $500,000 salary as insurance. That was a fortune back then. Because of her, Cliff got the part. The film earned multiple Oscar nominations, and once again, Taylor proved how far she'd go for a friend. Yet, no matter how hard she fought, she couldn't save him in the end. On July 23, 1966, Cliff died of a heart attack. He was only 45. They had planned to work together again in Reflections in a Golden Eye, but that dream died with him. Taylor was shattered. She called him her soulmate, the one who understood her best. His death, along with the loss of her husband, Mike Todd, sank her deeper into grief. The guilt, the sorrow, they followed her for the rest of her life. Her battles with addiction and troubled relationships were tied to that pain. Her time with Mike Todd had been her happiest. They married on February 2, 1957, in Uphill. That year in August, they welcomed their daughter, Liza Todd, showered her with love and grand gestures. He once gave her a diamond so large she wore it as a pendant. He even rented Madison Square Garden for her birthday. But joy turned to tragedy. On March 27, 1958, Todd's plane, the Lucky Liz, crashed in New Mexico. He died instantly. Taylor was 26. The loss crushed her. She collapsed when she heard. She couldn't be consoled. Grief pushed her toward Eddie Fisher, Todd's best friend. That relationship exploded into scandal. Fisher was married to Debbie Reynolds at the time, America's sweetheart. Taylor was painted as a home wrecker. The press called her a bad girl home wrecking the nation. Watched as Pfizer left Reynolds for Taylor. On May 12, 1959, just 3 hours after Fisher's divorce was final, he married Taylor, but the marriage was doomed. Taylor later admitted she never loved him. She said he was a crutch during her grief. Their life together was lonely. She even tried to end it all, swallowing sleeping pills in front of him, desperate to escape. But she survived, and she regretted it all deeply. As things fell apart, Fisher's jealousy turned dark. When Taylor fell for Richard Burton in 1961, Pfizer threatened her. More than once, he stood over her as she slept, pointing a gun at her head. He whispered that she was too pretty to shoot. He would sit by her with that gun, stroking her arm, repeating the threat whenever she tried to sleep. Finally, she fled, taking her children and leaving him behind. In 1961, Taylor won her first Oscar for Butterfield 8, but she hated the film. She took the role just to finish her MGM contract. The win felt hollow. She believed the Academy gave her the award out of sympathy. That year, she'd nearly died from pneumonia. She had a tracheotomy and stopped breathing 4 times. News outlets even reported her death by mistake. When she survived and won, people saw it as a reward for her ordeal, not her acting. From 1958 to 1964, Elizabeth Taylor lived through more drama and pain than most face in a lifetime. The public called her America's most hated woman. Protesters followed her. People sent hate mail and death threats. Signs at Fisher's shows read, "Liz, go home." Through it all, she endured. She later said, "I am a survivor, a living example of what people can go through and survive." And that's exactly what she was. When Cleopatra hit cinemas in 1963, it wasn't just a movie, it was a Hollywood earthquake. The budget spiraled to $44 million, which would be over $426 million today. No one had ever spent so much on a film. It was 3 times more expensive than Ben-Hur. The cost nearly destroyed 20th Century Fox. The chaos behind the scenes matched the madness of the budget. The first director was fired. Entire sets and costumes were scrapped and made again. Elizabeth Taylor almost died from pneumonia while filming in London. The production had to move to Rome to save her. But what really captured the world's attention wasn't the gold-covered sets, it was what happened between Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. On that set, they fell for each other. Their love story became bigger than the film itself. The studio boss, Darryl F. Zanuck, even wrote to Burton, calling them a combination. Audiences rushed to the cinemas not just to see the film, but to witness the passion that had taken Hollywood by storm. That passion helped save the studio from collapse. The romance didn't just shake up gossip columns, it stopped Cleopatra in its tracks. In early 1962, their affair exploded into public view. Both were married at the time. Taylor was with Eddie Pfizer, Burton was with Sybil Williams. Then came the photo that changed everything. A shot of them embracing on a yacht in Ischia. Press went wild. Suddenly, stars couldn't hide their private lives anymore. The scandal was so huge that 20th Century Fox halted filming. Every day off cost $100,000, a staggering sum. In the 1960s, people on set collapsed from exhaustion. The production manager fell so ill, he left and died soon after. Burton's diary told of lust-filled nights. He called Taylor an eternal one-night stand. Even when the cameras stopped, they kept kissing as if no one else existed. The affair turned a troubled film into a global sensation and changed the way Hollywood and the press worked forever. The drama didn't stop in Hollywood. The whole world was watching and many were furious. In 1962, the Vatican's newspaper slammed Taylor. It called her guilty of erotic vagrancy for loving Burton while still married. It called their affair an insult to the nobility of the hearth. The outrage made headlines across the world. Some U.S. politicians even suggested banning them from coming back to America because of their moral decline. Their romance became a symbol of freedom and excess at the same time. They had to tighten security on the set. Italy's version of the FBI got involved after threats were made against Taylor. But Taylor and Burton didn't back down. Taylor divorced Pfizer on March 15, 1964. Just 10 days after her divorce was final, she married Burton in Montreal. The world saw it as both a victory for love and a massive scandal. They were the most talked about couple of their time. Taylor wasn't just making headlines for her love life. She broke Hollywood's pay rules, too. For Cleopatra, she became the first actor ever, man or woman, to get $1 million for a single film. And she didn't stop there. She secured $50,000 a week in overtime pay. The shoot was meant to last 16 weeks, but it dragged on for 2 years. By the end, Taylor had earned nearly $7 million. That would be about $60 million today. She also got a cut of the film's profits. No star had ever done that before. Future actors followed her lead. Taylor's business sense matched her star power. She even negotiated parts of her deal from her bathtub with Eddie Pfizer, passing on her demands. When Fox agreed, she toasted with champagne. She shattered the ceiling for women in the film business and changed how stars would get paid forever. Richard Burton's own words, written in his diaries, showed just how obsessed he was with Taylor.